There are so many ways of describing roller derby. It's
like trying to play speed chess while someone throws bricks at you.
Like rugby on wheels, but the players are the balls.
it's a hobby, it's a sport, it's a cult, it's a number of things. For me, it's family.
I got into roller derby three years ago. One of my friends said, come and play this sport because you will love it. And I kind of said, okay, bought all the stuff, rocked up. On my third session, they were like, oh, we're going to do hitting. And I was like, oh, why? Oh, because it's a contact sport. Oh, okay. And that was basically it. And then I was hooked.
I found out about derby from a friend up in Liverpool. He used to go to uni up there. She tried to get me involved for a long time to join. I never got round to it, and then came back down to London and figured I needed a hobby that didn't involve drinking. So I found Croydon, although we do drink a lot, but found Croydon, tried out, and I'm here 18 months later.
I started because my sister founded Croydon Roller Derby, and she used to skate for London Rock and Rollers. And I lived in Brighton for a while, but then as soon as I moved back, I said, come join Roller Derby, it's great, you'll love it. And then I went out to the rookie session and I passed it and been on the A team ever since.
Mine's a really lame story, I think. I watched Whip It, and then, which everyone's like, don't, it doesn't tell the story. Anyway, I then thought this looks interesting and Googled it, and it turned out the tryouts were a week later. So honestly, it was a bit of a whim, but 18 months later, I'm still here, so it turned out pretty good.
First and foremost, it's a female sport, so I think that is really important to have a sport that is like, yeah, female centered, because most sports aren't.
It originally started with men and women in the 50s. The men would have their game and then the women would have their games, and then it kind of became a female sport. But I think it's a very different game. Women games and men games are very, very different. Men are very brutal, and I don't think that they are as tactical as women. Women tend to use more of our booties, as we like to say, to block, and I think we tend to be a bit more tactical with it, think a bit more, not so aggressive, and it does, I hate to say female power or girl power as we like to say it, but yeah, I think it is becoming more of a predominantly female sport because there aren't many sports that females can play that are quite aggressive, and being on skates is fun as well, so yeah.
I think women need to have a sport that there is their own, and it doesn't begin with women's football, women's basketball. It's nice that this is the lead sport and roller derby is the women's sport.
I played basketball for a while, which was really great. But like all the idols in basketball are men. You know, like name a famous female basketball player, like you can't. So that's why roller derby is really good, because like all of your idols, every single one of them are all women, so yeah.
So some of our refs are refereeing the World Cup, which is amazing, but people will turn around and say, oh, it's only the men's World Cup. So it's the only sport where you hear things like that being said.
Being around so many strong and like really self-assured women is really cool, and we'll really support each other and like make each other drive to be better athletes, which I think is really cool.
It's great to see a bunch of girls from all different backgrounds coming to somewhere that they can feel safe, express themselves and make connections with other people they wouldn't maybe normally do. So I think that's perfect.
It's a lot of different sized women of different abilities coming together to do one unified sport. No matter what you do, you're part of a team.
I think it's important in all sports for women, and it will take a sport like roller derby to force its values on other sports, because roller derby really demonstrates that sport is for everyone, and you can break away from patriarchal sportsmanship.
I think there's just a lot of respect across the sport that I don't think you find anywhere else. So yeah, I think the equality is a big thing.
In order for any league to work, in order for roller derby to work, there has to be a team. There has to be everyone pulling the weights, doing something. So in order for a league to work, you need different departments working behind the scenes to make the sport work. As a team, it means that everyone's pulling the weight, everyone's doing something. If there wasn't that team mentality, if everyone was in this for themselves, it wouldn't survive.
The team aspect is one of the most important things about this sport. None of us can do what we do without each other, without our teammates. It's so, so important, and developing like a really strong team bond outside of training is also really important, because you learn to trust each other, and that makes what you do on track better, because you can trust, you know, people are going to be there when they need to be, they're going to be in the right place. So yeah, the team aspect is really, really important, and I think teams that don't have that struggle definitely to improve.
I think trying to do something like this on your own would be ridiculous. I think I wouldn't let myself get beaten up for 6 hours a week for anybody else. It has to be for the team.
There are a lot of leagues that have kind of split off. As the sport has grown, there are people who are travelling 2-3 hours to get to a training session. If they can then form a new league closer to their home and get more skaters there, it means that you have more challenge teams, you have more games going on. So I definitely think it is still growing. The fact that we have more officials coming up means that we can then create those new teams and have those teams evolve into stronger teams, then break off again. So it is kind of like a little system which is kind of growing exponentially.
Yeah, it's growing so fast that people can't get halls, women can't get on teams and play because it's all super competitive. Unless you live in a quite quiet area where there's a new team just starting, the chances of getting into a team are really slim. You have to work your ass off for a few years just to get a chance to play. As far as uptake goes, that's a bad thing, because most people have to skate for a long time before they get to play. Now, of course, if you look at another sport like ice hockey, you wouldn't get to play on an ice hockey team unless you've ice skated all your life. So there's that opportunity that someone that's never skated before can pick up a pair of skates and get on a team. But as the years go by, that's harder and harder.
I started 3 years ago, and we used to play in a thing called the Heartland Series, and there were 14 teams that took part in that year. And now we have the British Championship, and there's like 14 teams in each tier, and it's absolutely huge. And I think again that is down to it being a more mixed sport now, that men are more involved, that there are teams from everywhere. They have the men's teams and the women's teams competing in the championships. It's huge.
You always meet sort of people sort of in the normal world or at gigs and things with sort of derby tops, and you're like, there's another one. You sort of spot them. It's like you spot them in the outside world. So I think it is growing, but maybe I'm more aware of it because I'm now part of it. It's tricky to say.
It is becoming more and more recognised as a sport as more sponsors join. So there's a lot of skaters that are forming skate shops and even skate brands. There's quite a few recent brands which come from skaters. It is recognised through the governing body, through WFTDA, the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, but there is a mentality of by the skaters for the skaters. That means that we don't want to lose that. We don't want to be more corporate. We want to be part of an organisation that is by the skaters for the skaters.
Recognition in Derby is nice. As a player, I don't mind how many people watch me, my team, or teams I coach, but it would be nice if there was more money involved. Derby's really nice in that everything's self-funded, and so there's less bullshit when you have governing bodies. The actual governing body for the roller derby is really trying to shit on us at the moment and control it, because they realise it's soon overtaking everything else the organisation does in roller sports.
I think it's one of those things, to be recognised, I think it takes time, and I think roller derby is quite new in that sense that actually it's only been around since the millennium in its second run, because it was around in the 30s and then it kind of died out and then got revamped. And yeah, I think it just takes time. It's one of those things, and I think it isn't short of being widely known.
I think it'll get there, but I think it's going to take some time, and just kind of getting the word out and getting more people involved makes it more well known. But sometimes it is quite nice to do something that no one knows what it is. So when people ask you about it, they say you play roller derby and they haven't got a clue, and you explain it to them and kind of watch their face when you show them clips, and it's really good fun.
Roller derby means to me that I can keep myself calm. In a normal working week, I can keep my temper with everybody else outside of roller derby.
It means Netflix gets a break. But more seriously, I think it means, you know, it's sort of sport and team spirit, and it means a lot to me because I've made some amazing friends, and yeah, I sort of get out for, makes me sound like a hermit. You know, it gets me outside, it gets you moving, and it's something to sort of do, sort of active, and you have fun while you're doing it, even if you come away with some pretty impressive bruises. But that's kind of cool when you're in the real world. So
Yeah, I think to me it was being part of a team again. I haven't really felt like part of a team since I did sports in high school, and it's really nice to feel like part of a unit.
like someone needs you.
Yeah.
Roller derby means to me just skating, just feeling free, and that connection with people. It's just a family element. But for me, it's just feeling free on skates. Sad.